Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The vastness of deep space stretched out like an endless black curtain, where the light from distant stars flickered faintly, trembling like candles on the verge of being snuffed out by the cold winds of the cosmos. At the heart of this void, the Eclipse Wanderer drifted slowly through a dense cloud of cosmic dust, its tiny particles shimmering under faint light, painting an ethereal yet perilous tableau. The ship's metal hull, scarred and mottled with burn marks from countless past battles, reflected the pale purple glow of the planet Klythera below, a world unlike any Marcus Kane had ever set foot on. Klythera was no gentle haven. It was a natural fortress forged by the harshness of nature and the ambition of its ruler. Towering basalt mountains jutted from its surface like giant, razor-sharp blades, black and gleaming, piercing through thick, swirling clouds of toxic mist, a pale green haze that glowed faintly with strange chemical reactions. Above, floating fortresses hung suspended in midair, held aloft by advanced anti-gravity technology, their neon-purple lights cutting through the darkness like beacons of supreme power. This was the domain of Lord Valthor, an alien being even the most seasoned mercenaries approached with caution. Marcus Kane stood firm in the central hall of the Klythera fortress, his boots planted slightly apart on the cold, mirror-smooth stone floor. His gray combat armor, scratched and scorched from years of war, clung to his rugged frame, a testament to the hundreds of battles he'd survived, from ambushes in far-flung galaxies to brutal hand-to-hand skirmishes with space pirates on the galaxy's edge. His weathered, sun-darkened face, framed by a scruffy beard, bore the unyielding resolve of a man who never backed down, whether facing humans or bizarre alien creatures. His piercing blue eyes, cold as ice, locked on to the Lord lounging on a throne of liquid alloy, a strange metal that flowed and reshaped itself like a living thing, glinting silver under the hall's purple light. Marcus's right hand gripped the handle of the plasma pistol at his hip, his thumb brushing the cool metal, ready to draw it in an instant if needed. He wasn't here to start a fight today. He'd come to claim his reward, 12 million credits for a job he'd bled for, wiping out the Duskfang horde, snarling beasts with razor-sharp teeth and claws longer than a man's arm, which had ravaged Valthor's mining colonies for months, turning resource-rich zones into blood-soaked wastelands of ash and dust. Before him, Lord Valthor reclined on his throne, legs crossed arrogantly, his long, clawed hands tapping rhythmically on the armrests. His skin glowed a molten red, speckled with natural veins like cracks on a volcanic surface, emitting a faint light with every movement. His golden eyes burned like a smelter's forge, glinting with a malicious spark as if he could see straight through Marcus and relished what he found. His smile, a crooked, sinister curve revealing dagger-like teeth, was the mark of a being who always held an ace up his sleeve, ready to crush anyone foolish enough to challenge him. "You did well, human," Valthor's voice rumbled, deep and resonant like a choked engine, each word spilling from his chest with an air of both authority and menace. "The Duskfangs are nothing but ashes under your hand, a feat even my Klytheran warriors couldn't achieve." He paused, tilting his head, his golden eyes flashing with a sly glint. "But," he drew out the word, letting the silence weigh heavily on the air, a silent blade hovering near Marcus's throat. "These days, credits aren't so easy to come by, Marcus Kane." Marcus clenched his jaw, the muscles beneath his scruffy beard twitching with rising anger. He could feel his pulse quicken, hot blood surging through his veins, but he kept his voice steady, cold as tempered steel. "We had a deal, Valthor," he growled, each word a warning not to be taken lightly. "I cleared out your damn vermin, 3 months living in caves reeking of death, hunted by monsters that could rip a ship apart with their claws. I did my job. Now you pay up. Don't try playing games with me, or we both know the cost." He didn't spell out that cost, but his eyes, sharp and unrelenting, carried the message clear as day. Marcus Kane wasn't a man to be trifled with, and if pushed, he'd turn this hall into a battlefield. Valthor's laughter erupted, sharp as snapping metal, echoing off the stone walls carved with ancient Klytheran symbols, intricate patterns telling tales of war, domination, and the arrogance of a species that saw itself as the universe's center. The sound bounced from the vaulted ceiling, where energy chandeliers hung, casting a faint purple glow over the polished floor like a mystical veil. "Credits?" Valthor said, his tone dripping with mockery, his arms spreading wide as if performing for an invisible crowd. "Oh no, my poor human, I have something far more valuable to trade, a gift worth more than the petty credits you crave." With a dramatic flourish, his claws sliced through the air, producing faint hissing sounds, and from the shadows behind the throne, 2 guards emerged. Clad in glossy black armor that shimmered like obsidian, they carried long energy rifles with barrels glowing a menacing red. Their footsteps clacked rhythmically on the stone floor, each sound a drumbeat heralding something ominous. They pushed forward a hovering cart, an oval device humming softly, suspended by an invisible force field. On it lay a figure that made Marcus catch his breath, his chest tightening as if gripped by an unseen hand. She was a being of breathtaking beauty, fragile yet fierce, like a meteor blazing gloriously before crashing down to incinerate everything in its path. Her skin shimmered a faint silver, glinting like moonlight on a still lake, each slight movement sending ripples of light across it under the hall's purple glow. Her deep blue hair cascaded like a midnight stream, each strand gleaming as if woven from the galaxy's starlight, spilling over her shoulders in soft waves. Her deep purple eyes, blazing like molten gems fueled by an inner fire, stared straight ahead, burning with an unquenchable flame despite her seemingly frail form, trapped in stillness. A thin white silk dress clung to her, its bold cut revealing the perfect curves of her body, from her slender waist to her delicate yet vital shoulders. But her legs, lifeless, dangling uselessly from the hips down, stood in cruel contrast to that beauty, a silent reminder of an untold tragedy. "Meet my daughter, Lysara," Valthor declared, his tone laced with mockery, arms spread as if presenting a rare commodity at a market. "Damaged after an explosion in the lab 3 years ago, a regrettable accident that took her legs, rendering her useless in my eyes. Now she's just a burden, a pretty ornament with no value. But perhaps you—" He tilted his head, his smile widening to reveal more jagged teeth. "A human as resourceful as you might find a use for her, whether to sell to slavers or keep as a plaything, I don't care." Lysara lifted her head, her blue hair swaying as she turned to face her father. Her purple eyes cut through him like a plasma blade, radiating a wordless power that could cleave him in two with a glance. "You can't sell me like some trinket," she snapped, her voice clear and commanding, ringing out like a defiant challenge that sliced through Valthor's smug laughter. But Valthor merely shrugged, his smile unshaken, his hands waving dismissively as if shooing away a pest. "It's done, Lysara," he said, his tone smooth but icy. "Take her to his ship." The guards advanced, their armored gauntlets seizing Lysara's arms with brutal indifference, yanking her from the cart like a machine executing a command. She struggled briefly, her strong arms resisting, but her lifeless legs left her helpless as they placed her on another hovering slab that hummed softly to life. Marcus stood still, his breath growing heavy as fury boiled in his chest, spreading through his muscles like a wildfire about to erupt. This wasn't a deal, it was a sick game, an insult not just to him but to the stunning being treated like a lifeless object before his eyes. Yet when Lysara's gaze met his, an electric jolt shot down Marcus's spine, making his fists clench tighter. Those purple eyes weren't those of a victim, they didn't beg or despair. They burned with sharp intelligence, a steel will unbroken by her paralyzed body, and a deep potential her mad father had never seen. "You can't trade your own daughter like a prize!" Marcus roared, his voice booming through the hall, his hand instinctively gripping his plasma pistol, thumb brushing the trigger. Valthor shrugged, his golden eyes flickering like twin flames, unmoved. "I just did," he replied, his voice slick as oil on water. "Now go, Marcus Kane, unless you'd rather leave here with nothing but a bullet in your skull, or a dozen, if you feel like testing your luck." Marcus counted fast in his head, his eyes darting around the hall with a veteran's speed. 12 guards scattered across the room, each armed with heavy weapons glowing red and ready to fire, a squad of drones hovering overhead, their electronic eyes scanning relentlessly, and Valthor, smirking with confidence, knowing Marcus couldn't win a straight fight against this fortress. He was good, damn good, but not crazy enough to charge into a battle he couldn't survive. "Fine," he growled, each word torn from his throat, his gaze still locked on Valthor like a silent vow of future reckoning. But this isn't over. He turned, his combat boots clacking sharply on the stone as he followed the guards dragging Lysara toward the docking bay. The hovering slab glided smoothly, but its hum couldn't drown out the weight in Marcus's chest. He felt her eyes on him not with fear or pleading, but with an eerie resolve, the look of a survivor plotting in the shadows, waiting for her moment to strike. Marcus didn't know who she was or what she was thinking, but one thing was clear: Lysara wasn't the gift Valthor thought she was, a wild card, and he'd just been dragged into a game whose rules he didn't yet understand. The Eclipse Wanderer blasted away from the Klythera fortress, its thrusters roaring with a deep, feral growl that echoed through space like the cry of a wounded beast determined to survive. Its scarred metal hull shuddered as it punched through the planet's toxic cloud layer, a thick, green haze shimmering with the faint glow of hazardous particles suspended in the air. The clouds churned violently, as if trying to claw the ship back, but Marcus Kane, hunched in the cramped cockpit, paid them no mind. His calloused, scarred hands gripped the controls with the precision of a man who'd spent half his life outrunning death, every move deliberate, every choice split-second. The console's glow illuminated his rugged face, highlighting his icy blue eyes and scruffy beard. He didn't glance out at the receding, treacherous beauty of Klythera. His focus was singular: get off this damn planet without being blown to pieces. In the rear compartment, Lysara sat on a makeshift seat, a rickety metal frame hastily welded from the ship's scraps, unpadded and uncomfortable but sturdy enough to hold her steady. Her thin white silk dress, now slightly crumpled from being manhandled out of the hall, shimmered under the dim, flickering LED lights overhead. The faint glow accentuated her silvery skin, which gleamed like a living mirror reflecting tiny motes of light. Her deep blue hair spilled over her shoulders, each strand glistening like threads of cosmic silk, swaying faintly with the ship's vibrations. She braced herself with both hands on the seat's edges, her arms surprisingly strong and agile despite her lifeless lower body, lifting herself into a prouder, more upright posture. Her deep purple eyes blazing like twin flames that refused to die studied Marcus with a cold, calculating intensity, like a strategist sizing up an opponent. "If you think I'm some prize to sell to black market slavers," she said, her voice cutting through the air like a plasma blade, "you're gravely mistaken, human." Her tone was clear and commanding, carrying the unmistakable weight of someone raised to rule, someone who'd stood at the pinnacle of power before her own father cast her aside. Marcus turned his head slowly, deliberately, his blue eyes meeting hers without flinching. His face remained impassive, but beneath it lurked a flicker of wariness, not fear, but the caution of a man used to empty promises and deadly traps. "Right now," he replied, his voice low and steady, honed by countless tense negotiations. "I just want to get off this hellhole of a planet without being shot to bits. Your story," he paused, a faint, sardonic smirk tugging at his lips, "can wait." His words were curt, but they carried weight, a declaration that he wouldn't be swayed not by an alien princess or a ruthless lord. A spark flared in Lysara's eyes, amusement mixed with suspicion, as if she just spotted an intriguing piece in a game she hadn't fully mastered. She tilted her head, her blue hair sliding over her shoulder in a soft cascade, and pressed on, her tone still sharp but now laced with a hint of challenge. "Don't dream of selling me," she said, each word a precise strike. "The slavers out there, from the filthy black markets of the Thanatos belt to the shadowy trading posts in Nebula X7, are all in my father's pocket. They won't pay you, Marcus Kane. They'll slit your throat and hand me back to him without blinking." She paused, letting her words sink into the cramped compartment, then added with a slight smile, "But I have something more valuable to offer, something even a mercenary like you can't refuse." Marcus raised an eyebrow, a subtle twitch that betrayed the curiosity she'd ignited, though he masked it under his cool exterior. His fingers tapped idly on the console's cold metal, but his eyes stayed fixed on her. "Oh, let's hear it," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, each word coated in a biting edge. "Your eternal gratitude shining across the stars? Or maybe a hollow promise from a princess her own father tossed out like trash?" He lingered on that last word, not to wound, but to test her to see if she'd shrink in pain or flare up in defiance. Lysara did neither. Instead, she smirked, a small, icy sound like a blade against a whetstone. Her blue hair shifted as she tilted her head, her purple eyes gleaming with unshakable confidence. "Information," she said, her voice firm as a verdict, each syllable ringing with the power of someone who knew her worth. "About my father's secret weapons cache, 17 bunkers packed with warship-grade plasma cannons, enough to level a mid-sized asteroid in minutes. His deals with the Crimson Reavers space pirates who've raided hundreds of trade routes and sold illegal arms to rebel factions. And the bigger plan he's hiding, an alliance with the Nebula Council, an ancient organization quietly pulling strings across galaxies to control the eastern trade lanes." She paused, letting her words settle in Marcus's mind, then added with a secretive smile. "Enough to buy you not just a new ship, but a whole fleet and maybe a corner of the galaxy to call home, if you're ambitious enough." Marcus went quiet, his breathing steady but slowing, as if weighing every word she just dropped. His hand rested on the console, fingers stilling, his eyes betraying a mix of intrigue and doubt. Information like that, if true, was a treasure any mercenary would kill for, but it could also be a lure set by someone smarter than he'd guessed. "And why should I trust a crippled alien princess?" he asked, his tone half skeptical, half provocative, his eyes narrowing as if trying to pierce through her facade to the truth beneath. Lysara leaned forward, her strong arms bracing against the seat with surprising force, though her lifeless legs hung limp. The movement made her silk dress slip slightly to one side, revealing more of her shimmering silver skin under the flickering LEDs. But she didn't care, her gaze locked onto Marcus, unwavering. "Because I can hear this ship dying," she replied, her voice calm but cutting like a freshly sharpened blade. "Your reactor's rattling off cycles 0.73 seconds per pulse, a clear sign of a cooling system failure. I don't need to walk to know that. My ears are sharp enough to catch the whine you've been ignoring." She paused, letting her words hit his weak spot, then pressed on. "You need cash to fix it, not just to patch it up, but to survive the next few days in this damn job. I'm your only shot, Marcus Kane, whether you admit it or not." Marcus cursed inwardly, his breath hitching for a split second as he realized she was right down to the smallest detail. The Eclipse Wanderer's reactor had been failing since last week, after a brutal run-in with the Crimson Reavers near the Thanatos belt. He'd patched it with scrap metal and prayers, but that faint whine she'd caught, the one he tried to tune out, was proof it wouldn't last. Valthor's credits were supposed to save him from being stranded in space, but now all he had was a ticking time bomb of a ship and an unwanted gift in the back. "Fine," he growled, turning to face her, his blue eyes flashing with resolve. "But I want something concrete. What do you have besides words, besides promises I've heard 100 times from bastards like your father?" Lysara smiled, a dangerous, alluring curve of her lips, her purple eyes blazing like twin meteors in the dark. "I know where Zenith 12 is," she said, her voice slow but certain, like a player laying down their final card. "A secret research station on the edge of the shattered system, hidden among asteroid belts and thick cosmic dust clouds. It holds advanced neural implant tech enough to fix these legs and turn me into something my father never dreamed of, a living weapon, a mind beyond his wildest imagination." She paused, gauging his reaction, then continued. "Get me there, and I'll give you everything: weapons, bunker maps, transaction codes, and a list of traders in his ranks, men ready to sell Valthor out to the highest bidder." Marcus frowned, his fingers resuming their tapping on the console, each beat a pulse of doubt in his mind. Her offer was too tempting, too perfect to not smell like trouble. "Sounds like a trap," he said, his voice dropping low, his eyes narrowing like a wolf sensing a hunter. "How do I know you're not Valthor's pawn, luring me into a net so he can finish me off without getting his hands dirty?" She laughed, a clear, chilling sound like silver bells in an icy cave. "If I were a trap," she replied, her tone tinged with mockery, "you'd be dead in that hall already, Marcus Kane, torn apart by my father's guards or shredded by the drones overhead. No, I'm not his pawn." She paused, her purple eyes locking onto him with rare sincerity. I studied you through his spy network before he gifted me to you. A mercenary, a survivor of battles even Klytheran warriors fled in terror. You're not the type to torture a crippled woman for intel. Your reputation says that much, no matter how hard you hide it behind that cold front. She stopped, leaning forward slightly, her silk dress slipping off one shoulder to reveal more shimmering skin under the flickering lights. The move wasn't accidental, it was an invitation, a subtle challenge she knew he couldn't ignore. Besides, she added, her voice softening but still edged with danger, I think we could work better than that, far better than you treating me like cargo or a burden. Marcus's throat went dry, a sudden heat racing down his spine as her gaze hit him like a beam through the dark. He forced himself to turn back to the controls, gripping the yoke to mask the flicker of unease rising within him. Save that act, Princess, he said, his voice straining to stay cold, though a faint tremor betrayed him. We're doing business. But deep down, he knew, Lysara wasn't a burden, she was a live grenade, a wild card he couldn't control. And as the Eclipse Wanderer hurtled into the deep void, leaving Klythera behind with the reactor's whine echoing like a warning, Marcus faced an undeniable truth. He'd just ignited her fuse, and from here on, his life would never be the same. The journey to Zenith 12 stretched across 4 days, a blink in cosmic terms, but an eternity of unrelenting trials as the Eclipse Wanderer tore through the treacherous expanse of the shattered system. This wasn't some serene corner of the galaxy with twinkling meteor showers or bustling trade routes. The shattered system was a natural war zone, where jagged asteroid fragments spun like deadly blades, ready to slice apart any ship too slow to dodge them. Black, gleaming rocks speckled with rare minerals whirled through space at lethal speeds, forming an invisible labyrinth only the boldest dared navigate. In the thick darkness between these asteroids, space pirates lurked like spiders awaiting prey, their gun barrels occasionally flashing like predatory eyes. The Eclipse Wanderer shuddered with each groan of its failing reactor, a faint, persistent whine like the labored breathing of a machine on its last legs. But Marcus Kane, hunched in the tight cockpit, held the controls with unwavering focus, his blue eyes glued to the NAV screen where red blips signaled approaching threats. He ignored the reactor's cries and the ship's tremors. For him, this was just another day as a mercenary: survive, evade, keep moving. In the rear compartment, Lysara had turned her rickety seat into a makeshift command hub, a feat of ingenuity given her limited resources. From a tiny personal satchel, the only thing she'd brought from Klythera, she'd pulled a thin, silver comm device, its glowing buttons faintly pulsing. Her strong, nimble hands, defying her paralyzed lower half, wired it into the ship's systems with hair-thin cables, crafting a temporary control network. Before her, holographic panels flickered to life in the air, their pale green 3D projections displaying maps of the shattered system, the ship's status, and the radar signals Marcus tracked. Her fingers danced across the controls with a technician's speed and precision, her purple eyes gleaming each time she spotted a new detail. Her white silk dress, now smudged with dust from the ship's floor, still shimmered faintly in the compartment's dim light, but she paid it no heed. Her mind was wholly on aiding Marcus, though she didn't say it aloud. "You're a lousy pilot," she quipped suddenly, her tone teasing as the Eclipse Wanderer skimmed a massive asteroid, its hull missing the jagged surface by less than a meter. Metal screeched as a corner grazed the rock, making Marcus grit his teeth. "If I could walk," Lysara went on, a smirk curling her silver lips, "I'd have kicked you out of that seat ages ago and done it myself." Marcus snorted, a dry chuckle escaping his throat, though his eyes stayed fixed on the NAV screen where a new red blip had popped up on the radar's edge. "Want to give it a go?" he shot back, his voice thick with sarcasm but free of malice, his hands deftly twisting the yoke to dodge another hurtling asteroid. "Plenty of room up here, Princess, but I'm afraid those pretty legs of yours aren't ready to hit the throttle just yet." Lysara's smirk widened, her purple eyes flashing with a spark of delight, as if she relished this verbal sparring more than she let on. "Don't underestimate me, Marcus Kane," she said, her voice a blend of arrogance and assurance, her blue hair swaying as she tilted her head. "I've piloted luxury star yachts through meteor clouds thicker than this back at Klythera's frontier ships 10 times the size of this rust bucket, with control systems more complex than a warship's neural grid. I did it before you even knew how to hold a gun, let alone fire one. Marcus didn't reply immediately, but the corner of his mouth twitched upward in a rare grin, not because he thought she was bluffing, but because he was starting to see Lysara wasn't just a discarded princess. She was a force to be reckoned with, even shackled by her broken body. The air between them softened, a subtle shift neither acknowledged but both felt. Their barbs and retorts lost their initial edge, settling into an odd rhythm like two sharp blades testing each other's metal without drawing blood. By the third night, as the Eclipse Wanderer paused to refuel at an abandoned station, a rusted husk adrift in space, its old fuel lines dangling like broken limbs, Lysara broke the silence. Marcus was crouched by a fuel conduit, his grease-streaked hands twisting a wrench to tighten a loose joint, when her voice cut through from the back, low and deeper than usual. "Ever thought about quitting?" she asked, her purple eyes gazing out the compartment window into the endless dark, where only faint starlight pierced the void. "This life running, fighting, always looking over your shoulder for the next enemy?" Marcus froze mid-motion, the wrench hovering in the air. He turned, his blue eyes darkening as if her question had struck a hidden chord, one he rarely let anyone hear. "Yeah," he said, his voice rough and low, each word dragged from a distant place. "Every day. Every time I wake up in this freezing cockpit, smelling burnt metal and hearing the reactor whine like a reminder I'm seconds from death. But then I remember, stopping means dying. There's no other choice." He paused, his gaze locking onto hers, then asked with a rare flicker of curiosity, "What about you? A princess like you must have had the galaxy at her feet, palaces, fleets, people begging for your favor?" Lysara didn't answer right away. She stared into the void, her purple eyes clouding as if lost in a far-off memory. When she spoke, her voice was heavy, tinged with a quiet sorrow she rarely showed. "I was heir to Klythera's throne," she said, each word lifted from a forgotten tome. "My father wanted me to be a symbol, a perfect warrior with a sword in hand, a diplomat whose words could bring galaxies to their knees. I was trained from childhood, tactics, engineering, politics, everything to make me the ideal successor." She stopped, her hands tightening on the seat, then continued with a bitter edge. "But after the lab explosion and experiment he ordered went wrong, when these legs stopped working, he looked at me like a broken tool. He called me a failure of royal blood, a stain on his legacy. He tried marrying me off to decrepit council lords who wanted me as a trophy, then staged accidents to erase me when I refused. Finally, he gave me to you a way to scrub me from his life while mocking humanity, proving even his trash was worth more than any of you." Marcus stayed silent, his grip on the wrench whitening his knuckles. He wasn't good with comfort or soft words, but her raw honesty stoked a simmering rage in his chest. "He's a bastard," he said flatly, his tone hard with unshakable certainty. "But you're not. I saw how you looked at him in that hall, not scared, not broken. You didn't flinch before that damn throne, you were just waiting for a chance to shove a knife in his heart, whether with your hands or your mind." Lysara turned to him, her eyes softening for a fleeting moment, a rare warmth breaking through their cold purple glow. "And you're that chance, Marcus Kane," she said, her voice quiet but weighted with meaning, a vow without the words. "Don't let me down." Before he could reply, the ship's alarm screeched, a piercing wail slicing through the stillness. The NAV screen flared red with 3 small blips on the radar's edge, tagged with Crimson Reaver's signatures, the notorious pirates in Valthor's employ, who nearly killed Marcus once before. "Damn it!" he snarled, tossing the wrench to the floor and leaping into the pilot's seat, his hands clamping onto the yoke like he'd crush it. "Can you shoot, princess?" he barked, his voice urgent but steady. Lysara grinned, a sharp, confident curve of her lips, her hands already on the holographic plasma cannon controls, fingers flying across the keys with uncanny speed. "Good question," she replied, her purple eyes blazing like a fire igniting. "Let me show you what a Klytheran princess can do." The fight was fast and fierce, a sudden storm tearing through space. Marcus wove the Eclipse Wanderer through asteroids with near-impossible precision, dodging red plasma bolts from the 3 Reaver ships, small, agile craft with black hulls bristling with heavy weapons. Lysara, from the back, took down 2 with pinpoint shots, each blast calculated to perfection, turning the controls into a deadly dance. The third ship charged in a suicidal rush, but Marcus spun the ship just in time, its hull tilting inches from the explosion, and Lysara finished it with a shot through its reactor, erupting it into a fireball that lit up the dark. As the smoke cleared, silence returned, broken only by their ragged breaths echoing in the compartment. Marcus turned to Lysara, sweat streaking his forehead, his blue eyes flashing with rare admiration. "Not bad," he conceded, his tone dry but laced with unspoken respect. Lysara smirked, her blue hair matted with sweat, her purple eyes still aglow. "You too," she shot back, her smile widening. "Maybe we're a better team than I thought." But their brief triumph shattered when a faint encrypted signal buzzed from the Reaver wreckage, flickering on Lysara's screen. She decoded it swiftly, her face hardening as she read. "Target confirmed, Lord Valthor. Orders from Lord Valthor: eliminate both, recover data at all costs." Marcus spun to her, his eyes sharp as knives, his grip on the yoke tightening. "Tell me the truth," he growled, each word a hammer strike. "How valuable is that intel that your father's willing to kill us both to get it back?" Lysara met his gaze unflinching, her purple eyes burning with unyielding resolve. "Enough to topple him," she said, her voice steady as a sworn oath. "Enough to destroy his empire and reshape this galaxy. But you have to trust me, Marcus, trust me like I trusted you in that fight. If you don't, we'll die here, and all we've got will be dust among the stars." On the 5th day, after 4 relentless days navigating the perils of the shattered system, Zenith 12 finally loomed into view, a colossal, menacing silhouette against the pitch-black void. It wasn't like any space station Marcus had encountered before, no rusted outposts or bustling trade hubs where he'd patched ships or bartered goods. Zenith 12 was a fortress of sleek black metal, floating between 2 asteroid belts like an impregnable bastion, its smooth surface reflecting glints from the drifting rocks around it. Pale green energy pulses flickered along its circuitry veins, giving it the eerie look of a living giant, both beautiful and terrifying. Automated turrets towered high, their glowing red barrels sweeping space with mechanical precision, ready to shred any unauthorized intruder. Massive gates, hundreds of meters tall and shielded by a thick force field, hummed with a low, resonant drone, like the breath of a slumbering machine. Marcus guided the Eclipse Wanderer to a derelict docking bay on the station's southern edge, where cosmic dust coated abandoned cranes, rusted fuel lines, and discarded metal plates from decades past. He chose it for its obscurity, out of the turret's range, but he knew safety here was a fleeting illusion. In the cockpit, Lysara sat beside Marcus in the co-pilot's seat, her nimble hands darting across a holographic map she'd conjured from her personal comm device. The 3D projection glowed faintly green, a labyrinth of corridors, labs, and military zones hovering in the dim air. Her fingers moved with astonishing speed, zooming in and out, dissecting every corner of Zenith 12 like a seasoned tactician. Her purple eyes shone, reflecting the map's light, and her voice rang with certainty as she pointed to a rectangular block deep in the station's core. "The lab's in Sector D9, she said, her finger hovering over the spot. "That's where the neural implant tech is the key to fixing these legs. But there's a catch. The station's run by General Zarok." She paused, her gaze flicking to Marcus, gauging his reaction. "He's a traitor who's been hunting my father's weapons to build his own empire, a ruthless bastard who'd do anything, and I'd bet he knows we're here." Before Marcus could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life, a shrill burst cutting through the quiet. A message flashed on the console, and General Zarok's gravelly voice rumbled through, each word dripping with smug confidence. "Marcus Kane," he growled, his tone thick with disdain. "I know you've got Lord Valthor on that ship. Hand her over, and I'll give you 8 million credits, enough to live like a king for the rest of your days, instead of dying like a dog in the void." Marcus let out a short, mocking whistle, then turned to Lysara, his blue eyes glinting with wry amusement. "Generous offer," he said, his voice dry but tinged with curiosity. What do you think, Princess? 8 million credits for you sounds like a steal. Lysara shot him a look, her purple eyes probing but fearless, as if she danced with threats like this 1,000 times. Planning to sell me? She asked, her tone light but edged with a razor's bite, ready to slice through any lie. 8 million's a big number. Marcus Kane enough to fix this junker and buy you a life where you don't have to keep looking over your shoulder. Marcus smirked, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm on the console, each beat a pulse of skepticism. Think what you want, he replied, his eyes narrowing like a wolf scenting danger. Funny thing, though that number matches the value of your father's weapons cache you mentioned back on Klythera. Zarok knows you've got intel but not the whole picture, right? Lysara tilted her head, a sly, dangerous smile curling her lips, her purple eyes blazing like molten gems fueled by an inner fire. He doesn't know the half of it, she said, her voice slow and deliberate, like a gambler holding the winning card. I've sent copies of my father's data to 3 secret locations across the galaxy, places neither Valthor nor Zarok will ever find. If I die, they'll go public automatically, and both those bastards will crumble under the weight of their own crimes. But that's not all. She paused, her gaze locking onto Marcus, then continued with cold certainty. The tech here at Zenith 12 doesn't just fix my legs. It's the key to an advanced neural interface, a system that could link my mind to an entire fleet, turning one person into a living command hub, controlling hundreds of warships with a thought. Zarok and my father would kill each other to get it, and I'm the only one who knows how to activate it. Marcus rubbed his chin, his eyes lighting up with a mix of awe and wariness. You're more dangerous than I thought, Lysara, he said, his voice dropping low as he weighed her words. But if both of them want you dead, Valthor for the intel, Zarok for the tech, then we're not just walking into a tiger's den. We're diving into a minefield. Lysara's lips twitched into a fierce grin, her purple eyes blazing with unshakable resolve. Then we'd better be faster, she replied, her tone of vow forged in steel. They hatched a plan in minutes. Marcus would accept Zarok's offer to distract him, stepping into the lion's den, a red-lit arena deep in the station, swarming with guards and armed drones, while Lysara infiltrated D9 through maintenance ducts. With astonishing arm strength, she hauled herself through the narrow pipes, her hands gripping cold metal edges, moving with the agility of an athlete despite her lifeless legs. In the arena, Marcus faced Zarok, a towering figure with metallic gray skin that gleamed like forged steel, for mechanical arms sprouting from his massive frame, each wielding an energy sword glowing red and hissing like a buzzsaw. The arena pulsed with crimson light from overhead fixtures, casting shadows on a metal floor stained with old burns and blood. You're too slow, human! Zarok roared, his voice thundering, one sword slashing down with terrifying speed, cleaving the air inches from Marcus's head. He rolled aside, his body moving like a panther, firing back with his plasma pistol, blue bolts tearing through the air but only scratching Zarok's armor. The general laughed, a grating sound like grinding metal. Did you think I wouldn't see through your plan? Where's Valthor's little princess? Hiding in that scrap heap you call a ship? Marcus smirked, keeping his cool despite his pounding heart. Her? He shot back, his tone laced with mockery. Oh, she's busy doing something you'd never guess, you four-armed idiot. Meanwhile, in D9, Lysara dragged herself into a dimly lit lab, illuminated only by the faint blue glow of neural implants suspended in glass cylinders. She pulled herself to a central console, her arms trembling with exhaustion but working fast to activate it. A surge of green light enveloped her as artificial neural tendrils linked to her damaged spine, thin as spider silk, piercing her silver skin and fusing with her backbone. She screamed, her cry echoing in the sealed room, but then her legs twitched, muscles dormant for 3 years stirring awake. Through a video link she'd rigged to the Eclipse Wanderer, Marcus watched from the arena, his heart racing as she stood for the first time in years, her steps shaky but determined. How's it feel? He asked over the comm, his voice rough with tension, still trading shots with Zarok to buy time. Like the universe is flowing through me, Lysara whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, her purple eyes blazing as she gripped the console. Suddenly, the lab screens flickered with data at breakneck speed, and she felt a new power surge through her. "This tech," she said, awe and excitement mingling in her tone. "It's amplifying my entire nervous system. I can connect to the ship, to the station. I feel every energy pulse, every drone, every door." But her triumph was cut short as the lab doors slammed open, Zarok's soldiers storming in, their energy rifles glowing red and aimed at her. With her newfound power, Lysara raised a hand, a small, commanding gesture, and the room's drones turned on their masters, unleashing a hail of plasma that dropped them in seconds. She staggered to the exit, her legs stumbling but pressing forward, hands bracing against the walls for balance. Marcus caught her signal over the comm from the arena. "I'm out!" Lysara's voice crackled through, urgent but resolute. "Meet me at the dock!" He lobbed a smoke grenade, a thick white cloud engulfing the arena, then bolted from Zarok's reach as the general bellowed over the comm, fury in his voice. "You won't escape, Kane! I've called Valthor's fleet. You're both dead!" Marcus gritted his teeth, sprinting through the station's icy metal corridors, his breath ragged but his eyes alight. He didn't know how strong Valthor's fleet was, but one thing he knew: he and Lysara weren't dying here, not today. Marcus burst out of Zenith 12's frigid metal corridors, his combat boots pounding the abandoned dock where the Eclipse Wanderer waited. His breath came in sharp gasps, sweat streaking his forehead, but his blue eyes remained razor-sharp, unflinching. Lysara emerged just behind him, her newly awakened legs still clumsy but moving with surprising speed, her hands gripping rusted crates for support. They met under the ship's shadow, its scarred hull glinting faintly in the green glow of the station's energy veins. But before they could catch their breath, the space around the dock trembled, a low roar rumbling from the void. Marcus looked up, his chest tightening as a mixed fleet encircled them from all sides. Zarok's angular, dagger-like ships hovered to the north, their gray hulls faintly glowing from cannon muzzles. Opposite them loomed Valthor's fleet, their molten red hulls echoing Klythera's neon-lit fortresses, now mirrored in space. The ships formed a tight ring, sealing every escape, but what made Marcus frown wasn't their numbers, it was their stillness. No plasma bolts, no gunfire, just a heavy silence, like the calm before a galactic storm. Lysara stood beside him, her breathing ragged, her purple eyes scanning the fleet with a strategist's speed. "Something's off," she whispered, her voice taut but steady. Before Marcus could ask, the Eclipse Wanderer's comm flickered, an encrypted signal beaming from Valthor's flagship, a massive red-hulled beast adorned with ancient Klytheran runes. Lord Zeno's Valthor's voice cut through the speakers, cold and sharp as a blade through steel. "Lysara," he snarled, each word laced with suppressed rage. "Hand over the data, and I'll spare you. You think I don't know you stole from my systems? The weapons maps, the transaction codes, all you took from me. Give it back, or die with that human in the ashes of your pathetic ship." Lysara clutched Marcus's hand, her nails digging into his palm, but her purple eyes burned with defiance. "He doesn't know I sent copies," she murmured, a hint of smugness in her tone, her gaze narrowing as she studied the fleet. "I've stashed the data in 3 secret spots, he'll never find them. But something's wrong." She trailed off, her eyes darting from Valthor's flagship to Zarok's ships, then back to Marcus with a spark of doubt. "Why's Zarok working with him? Their enemies. Zarok wants those weapons to fight him, not join him." Marcus opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, a third voice broke through the calm, deep and commanding, like a frigid wind sweeping across space. The Eclipse Wanderer's screen flickered, and an alien figure appeared, making both Marcus and Lysara freeze mid-breath. It was tall and gaunt, almost fragile, yet exuded an overwhelming presence. Its pearl-white skin shimmered like carved ice, its bottomless black eyes swallowing light like twin voids. A faint energy aura pulsed around it, shimmering with silver-white tendrils, a mystical yet menacing veil. "Because they're both my puppets, Lysara Valthor," the voice intoned, low and absolute, like a judgment beyond appeal. "I am Kaelith, leader of the Nebula Council. Your father and Zarok are mere pawns in my design to control this galaxy through weapons and fear, forging an empire under my rule. But you..." Kaelith tilted her head, her black eyes glinting with malice. "You've ruined everything." Marcus gripped the yoke, his knuckles whitening, his blue eyes flicking to Lysara with a mix of suspicion and concern. "You know her?" he asked, his voice low, each word pulled from deep within. Lysara shook her head, but her gaze darkened, her hands trembling as she clutched the seat. "No," she replied, her tone slow and heavy, as if sifting through memory. "But I know the Nebula Council. They're an ancient order, millions of years old, manipulating species from the shadows from galactic wars to empire collapses. If they're behind my father—" She stopped, her breath quickening, her purple eyes flaring as a horrific realization hit. "They want the tech in me not just to fix my legs, but to make me a living weapon, a tool to command their fleets with the neural system I just activated." Kaelith's cold laugh crackled through the screen, sharp as shattering glass, echoing in the cockpit. "Clever girl, Lysara," she said, her tone mocking. "You're half right. That tech isn't just a fleet controller, it's the pinnacle of evolution, a bridge between flesh and machine. But I don't need you alive. Your body, your brain, your nervous system will suffice to complete my plan." The screen went dark, and instantly, the mixed fleet opened fire, red and green plasma bolts ripping through space, hurtling toward the Eclipse Wanderer like a lethal deluge. Marcus slammed the yoke forward, shouting, "Hold on!" The Eclipse Wanderer lurched upward, its hull shuddering as he threw it into a wild weave through the asteroid belt. Massive rocks spun around them, some mere meters away, forming a deadly maze he navigated by instinct and grit. Explosions boomed behind, plasma bolts striking asteroids and igniting brilliant blasts in the dark. Lysara, with her new neural power from Zenith 12, jacked straight into the ship's systems via a holographic interface from the co-pilot's seat. Her hands flew across virtual controls with superhuman speed, firing plasma cannons and deploying energy shields like extensions of herself. Her precise shots downed two of Zarok's smaller ships, turning them into fireballs that crumbled among the rocks, while the Eclipse Wanderer's shields flared with each blocked salvo from Valthor's flagship. But the pressure mounted, and Lysara yelled over the engine's roar. "I need you closer!" Her voice cracked with strain, her purple eyes flickering as she struggled to maintain the ship's link. Marcus didn't hesitate. He pulled her into his lap, his strong arms locking around her waist, her body pressed tight against his. Instantly, an unseen energy surged between them, as if their closeness amplified her power. The Eclipse Wanderer responded like part of them, dodging asteroids with uncanny precision, evading enemy fire like a predator in a storm. Lysara's cannons fired relentlessly, each shot blasting another enemy ship apart, but the reactor's ominous whine grew louder, drowning out the external blasts. Marcus clenched his jaw, his blue eyes blazing as he scanned the radar. They'd broken the encirclement, but the ship was screaming in agony, teetering on the edge of collapse. Lysara panted in his arms, sweat streaking her silver skin, but her eyes stayed locked on the controls. "We made it," she whispered, her voice shaking with exhaustion yet firm with faith. Marcus gripped the yoke, his breathing heavy as he stared into the void ahead, the shattered system's darkness stretching endlessly. "Not yet," he growled, his gaze icy. "Not when this reactor might kill us before they do." But deep down, he knew, they just survived a death trap, and the real enemy, Kaelith, still waited in the shadows, her plans far grander than they could fathom. The Eclipse Wanderer staggered through the void, its reactor whining like a wounded beast, each shudder a stark reminder that the ship teetered on the brink of survival. Marcus gripped the yoke with iron resolve, his blue eyes scanning the NAV screen for a refuge amid the shattered system. After the brutal clash with Zarok and Valthor's fleets under Kaelith's command, they needed a foothold to breathe, not to rest, but to live another day. At last, he landed the ship on an abandoned outpost at the system's edge, a lonely wreck of metal in the endless dark. Once a small research station, it was now a rusted skeleton, walls riddled with holes exposing severed cables, energy conduits dangling like broken limbs, and thick cosmic dust blanketing everything like a shroud of mourning. Faint starlight pierced the cracked ceiling, casting dim streaks across a metal floor scarred with burns, illuminating the cold, desolate space. Marcus killed the engines, the reactor's whine fading into a heavy silence broken only by his and Lysara's labored breaths. Lysara sat in the co-pilot's seat, her deep blue hair matted with sweat, her silver skin glinting faintly under the console's dim glow. She rested a hand on her still flat stomach, a gentle but deliberate gesture, and her purple eyes met Marcus's with rare vulnerability. "I need to tell you something," she began, her voice low but steady, like someone unveiling a secret that could shift the stars. Marcus turned, his eyes narrowing, a flicker of suspicion mingling with curiosity across his rugged, bearded face. "Now, of all times?" he asked, his tone dry but edged with concern. Lysara smiled, a blend of softness and pride, like moonlight breaking through a storm, then said, "I'm pregnant." The air in the cockpit seemed to solidify. Marcus stared at her, his mind reeling like a ship caught in a vortex, her words echoing in his skull like an explosion in the void. "You mean?" he muttered, his voice hoarse with shock, his hands slipping from the yoke. "We've got a kid? In the middle of this damn mess?" Lysara nodded, her hands still on her stomach, her purple eyes blazing with fierce conviction. "The neural tech from Zenith 12, she explained, her voice deliberate but alive with power. "It didn't just heal my legs. When I linked with the system and with you during that fight, it interacted with your human DNA. A part of you fused with me, and this child is the result, a perfect bridge between Klytheran and human, a new life carrying my strength and your grit." Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came. He glanced at his hands that had wielded guns, flown ships, and clawed through 100 battles as if they'd become something alien. "I can feel its consciousness," Lysara went on, her voice trembling with emotion, "blending with the tech in me. This child didn't just heal me, it upgraded me. When I'm near you, my systems stabilize, like it's amplifying me, a living processor, a power beyond anything I dreamed." Marcus rubbed his face, wrestling with the chaos in his head. "You sure?" he asked, his tone tinged with doubt but heavy with wonder. Lysara laughed, a clear, bold sound that rang through the cockpit. "As sure as I'm standing here, Marcus Kane. And it's stronger than I imagined, stronger than both of us combined." Their fleeting joy shattered as the outpost quaked violently, as if struck by an unseen fist from space. Metal walls groaned, dust raining from the ceiling, and the Eclipse Wanderer's alarms screeched again. Marcus lunged for the radar, his chest tightening as dozens of blips swarmed the screen. Kaelith's fleet had found them. Pearl-white ships shimmered like deadly comets, closing in from all sides, their cannons glowing with star-like brilliance. Lysara stood, her legs steadier than ever, and jacked into the ship's systems. "They think I'm useless," she snarled, her eyes blazing with defiance. "Now they'll see who I am." She hacked the enemy fleet's network, broadcasting Valthor, Zarok, and the Nebula Council's crimes across the galaxy via open channels. But the ships didn't falter, they charged, and the final battle erupted. Marcus fired up the Eclipse Wanderer, the ship trembling as it launched from the outpost, facing Kaelith's flagship head-on, a monstrous white vessel 3 times their size. Lysara manned the cannons and shields from the co-pilot's seat, infiltrating the flagship's systems to turn its guns on itself in a dazzling chaos of friendly fire. But as the flagship exploded, Kaelith emerged not in flesh, but as a pure energy entity. Her silver-white form rose from the wreckage, black eyes burning with malice, her aura pulsing wildly. Dark energy poured from her, enveloping the Eclipse Wanderer like a maelstrom, crushing the hull with a sickening creak. "You think a hybrid brat can stop me?" Kaelith roared, her voice piercing space, stabbing into Marcus and Lysara's minds like daggers. The ship rocked violently, the reactor's wail signaling doom. Marcus gripped the yoke, his blue eyes blazing as he shouted, "Lysara, do something!" She clung to him, her silver arms wrapping around his neck, her body pressed close to unleash her full power and their child's. A white light erupted from her, but Kaelith didn't relent. Her dark energy pierced the glow, black lightning coiling around the ship. "I am the Nebula Council!" Kaelith bellowed, her voice shattering like glass. "I've shaped this galaxy for millions of years, your insects!" A dark surge shot into the cockpit, punching through the hull toward Lysara, but Marcus yanked her aside, the beam incinerating the co-pilot's seat to ash. Lysara gritted her teeth, her purple eyes flickering as she poured every ounce of will into the fight. "The baby," she whispered, her hand on her stomach, feeling its consciousness merge with hers. Another white burst flared, stronger now, rippling through the ship and repelling Kaelith's darkness. But she pressed on, morphing into an energy vortex that slammed into the Eclipse Wanderer, tipping it into a nearby asteroid. Marcus wove the ship through the rocks, dodging her relentless assaults, while Lysara shouted, "Hold steady! I need time!" She dove deeper into the ship's systems, using the child's power to amplify her neural reach, hacking into Kaelith's very energy, a daring, untested gambit. Kaelith roared, her vortex faltering as Lysara breached her core. "You dare?" she screamed, her voice fracturing. Marcus threaded the ship through a narrow gap between asteroids, evading another dark wave, and yelled, "Now or never, Lysara!" She shut her eyes, her arms tightening around Marcus, and a final white explosion erupted not just from her, but from him and their unborn child. The light blazed like a supernova, piercing Kaelith, shattering her dark energy into glittering fragments. She shrieked one last time, a cry of agony and despair, before dissolving completely, leaving the Nebula Council's fleet in disarray, torn apart by the aftershock. The Eclipse Wanderer lurched to a halt in the void, its reactor falling silent in exhaustion. Marcus and Lysara gasped for air, sweat streaming, but they held each other tight, their eyes alight with belief. "We did it," Lysara whispered, her hand stroking her stomach, sensing their child safe within. Marcus laughed, pulling her closer. "You and that kid are the most dangerous things I've ever met," he said, his voice thick with pride. They gazed into the void, where Kaelith's remnants drifted like stardust, knowing this was the dawn of an alliance beyond all limits. A year had passed since the fateful battle with Kaelith, and on the ruins of the Klythera fortress, once a symbol of ruthless power, the Unity Medical Center rose like a beacon of hope. The old basalt walls were replaced by gleaming white metal, sparkling under the planet's pale purple light, and the corridors that once echoed with Valthor's cruel laughter now buzzed with the voices of scientists, engineers, and survivors from across the galaxy. In a bright room, Lysara lay on a medical bed, her once paralyzed legs now strong, having carried her through the final months of pregnancy. Baby Lyra's first cry rang out, clear and mighty, triggering the room's devices to flicker in response to her innate hero power. Lyra's skin shimmered a silvery blue, a flawless blend of her Klytheran mother and human father, her deep brown eyes, Marcus's eyes, glowing with an unbreakable will. The door swung open, and Valthor entered, no longer the arrogant lord with blazing golden eyes. He was aged now, shoulders slumped under the weight of regret, his molten red skin faded by time and battles past. He knelt before his granddaughter, tears streaking his once defiant face. "I was wrong," he rasped, each word torn from his soul. "I gave you away like a joke, Lysara, a discard to mock humanity. But you changed everything, outmatched me and foes greater than me." Lysara gazed at her father, her purple eyes softening yet firm. She said nothing, only held Lyra close, letting her daughter's presence speak for her. Marcus stood beside her, his strong arm encircling Lysara and Lyra, a broad grin breaking across his weathered face. "I didn't get paid for that job," he said, his tone teasing but brimming with pride. "But I got a whole damn universe and more." The Eclipse Wanderer, now repaired and upgraded, lifted off once more from Unity's dock, carrying the small family and a revolution igniting across the galaxy. Lysara peered into the void through the cockpit window, her hand stroking Lyra, and whispered, "This is just the beginning." But somewhere in the deep darkness, a faint signal pulsed, a silver-white energy bearing Kaelith's mark. She wasn't dead, only dispersed for now, and the war was far from over. Marcus tightened his grip on the yoke, his eyes blazing. They were ready.